Hello, I'm Meredith of Meredith Asks. Tonight we have some very interesting dialogue happening for you people. We've got a set of questions that will surely rile you up in more ways than one. And for the first question we have, it's a little indicative of our culture today, and we're going to take it on right now. The first question of the evening is, in fact, why is there sadness in the world?
Well, golly, that's an intense first question.
Oh, yeah.
Who wants to pick up the ball here and roll with it first? Shall I?
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Why is there sadness? I'll only preface the conversation. We can get it going maybe by saying that sadness probably without sadness. I mean, it's the idea of two extremes. And if you're going to spend all your time happy, it's kind of like, if you smoke cigarettes, if you smoke all day long, it's not as good as maybe if you don't smoke cigarettes for a few hours and you go out and have a cigarette and you're like, oh my gosh, it tastes so much better. You kind of have to have the juxtaposition of having and not having. And so not having would be the saddest extreme. I don't know. I phrased that poorly.
It makes you wonder then, where sadness came from. Like, did it started where Adam and Eve, when he first took the bite of the apple? Maybe God wanted to introduce them to what downing is.
So do you think then that, like for instance, animals then? Because if it's strictly a human thing, do you think animals can be sad? I mean, I would say they can.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you see an animal who's sad when their family or other people they love die.
I've heard that elephants and chimpanzees, like, they mourn the dead.
Yeah,
they like all chill out. Crows too. Crows will like come and hang out around the body for a little while.
Like elephants, they like go back to the burial site where their person died at, and they sit there and
have a little funeral.
Yeah, it's like an elephant funeral. They go back to the site where one of the elephants died at, and they sit there and just moan over it.
Wow.
Like cats do the same thing too. Like we was at my house and we saw a dead cat in the trash can, and there was like 30 cats wrapped around this trash can, all meowing at once.
What?
It was a baby kid that was in there.
It was stuck in there, so they were like alerting y'all.
Yeah, and it's like I didn't think cats will be that sad about it.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's kind of evolutionarily. They say it could be good. In fact, I've heard that depression. There's a lot of depression in Western culture, in our culture, and that it could, in fact, be a defense mechanism because our immune systems aren't as up to speed, and so the depression kind of keeps us from experiencing too many microbes and stuff. You kind of hole yourself up.
Wow.
So it makes you stay inside?
Yeah, it could kind of be this freakish
agoraphobia is actually like an evolutionary step. It's
like
the next step.
You just have to stay inside.
Unless there's those people that
fear of open spaces?
Fear of anything outside.
Weird.
See, I want to stay in this area only, this small area.
Oh, man.
Well, let me ask you guys a question.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, Reggie.
Like, why is it only in our culture that they have things like depression? You don't hear about it in like other cultures.
Yes, I think what you're saying is why are we especially depressed? Because sadness isn't just in our culture, of course, but we do kind of have this. You know what? I will say that in my opinion, it's because we think sadness is this negative state. Like we think that sadness is this thing that we don't want to experience when, especially today when we have more access to information than ever. Wow. If you're not sad every day, for all kinds of reasons, you're not paying attention. You're blind.
I mean,
really? I mean, look at Mexico. Look at what's happening in Mexico with all these chainsawed heads.
Yeah.
This drug war. Like, you should be sad about the plight of these citizens getting killed by the thousands.
You probably don't see a lot of people sad about it because they don't want to focus on what's around them right now. They want to move on.
Well, they want to focus on what's around when it's good. I think they want to have constant positive reinforcement.
It's like, why keep focusing on the sad part if you can just move on from it? Some people just can't do that.
No offense to Meredith. No longer with us in the studio.
Yeah, she bailed.
So she can't even really talk for herself.
Yeah.
But she was saying that this question is indicative of our times. And I don't know exactly what you meant, but I'm going to turn it around. It's probably not what you meant, but it is indicative of our times to ask that. Because we are so comfortable in our little worlds that, we can actually think of a world without sadness.
Yeah,
you know?
wow.
I don't know. I'll be a lot
We
of
have-
debt. Something if that was a case of a world without sadness.
Well, yeah, agreed. But I think what Alex is saying and what's topical and poignant is that I mean, dude, think about the similarities between the lives of your average human for the time that humans have been around, and they mirror more the lives of gorilla and chimpanzee and orangutan and stuff until very recently. We have been, defecating in the woods and wiping with trees or not at all, or as we walk, we all of a sudden, it's very unnatural. We kind of live in a virtual world already without.
Yeah. And it's just getting faster and faster. Like the bubble is just like growing and like just in our own like little bubble. So I think even to ask the question of why is sadness in the world, but like I think back in the day, you never even had to ask that. You had to ask why is there not happiness in my world?
Whoa.
And life is so hard. You know what I'm
But
saying?
now we got both now.
I don't know
mean,
which philosopher said it, but there was a philosopher who said a perfect world is an imperfect world. Meaning, if you have everything you ever wanted, you're bored.
Yeah,
And
I
you
think
need to
that was
create
maybe
things to make your
Voltaire,
life
or he
interesting.
scabbed onto that idea because it's the best of all possible worlds. Like, if it were any better, it would be worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, what would you do if like you didn't have to worry about anything?
It was
You
sad.
don't have to
Good
worry
old
about it.
time.
Well, if you don't have to worry about anything, though, I think that's kind of where we are in a lot of ways in the first world, where, I mean, the things that we have to worry about aren't really about survival, unless, obviously people have to pay bills, and if you're on the bottom end of the earning spectrum, that can be especially tough, and that is obviously a real problem, but survival-wise, it's crazy how low the death rates are now. I mean, people live to 90 and 100 because honestly, that is a sickness in itself, the whole prolonging of life for life's sake.
Well.
I don't.
All right, would
Yeah.
you like your mom to not have medical treatment?
I would
Because
love for
there's
my
too
mom
many
to
people in the
have
world?
medical treatment, but if she got to a point where she couldn't take care of herself and she was living, God forbid, with the use of machines,
Well.
I don't know if she would want to live like that. I don't know if we've talked that much about it, but I know I wouldn't.
Yeah, you're gonna have to have that conversation.
Yeah, we should probably all have living wills and stuff. I need to talk to my mother about it. You're right.
No, I don't talk to nobody fine. When my sister was in that kind of thing, just pull the plug. Do you talk? No, just pull it.
Yeah,
Well,
but-
my sister knows. For me, yeah, that's the. she would.
And I'll
She would
think-
pull the plug
And I'm thinking
prematurely.
the same thing that happened to me. You see me that? Just pull the plug.
Oh yeah, man. Well, because honestly, what is the horizon? The Shakespeare said, "The undiscovered country from whose bourne no traveler returns." That's what the next thing is. Now, a lot of people would say, atheists among them, that there is no next step. But for me, that's kind of hard to believe. Granted, whatever. I mean, why wouldn't it be? We're mortal, but we're alive, so we feel like we'll always be alive.
I'm an atheist.
Okay, but do you believe that there is some transitory? Do you believe that our energy ceases, that our conscious energy completely ceases when we die, or is there some?
I think it's about time for
murmuring
this
or,
next
some
question,
kind of,
guys.
echo? What did you call it?
I said what I was trying to say was like where we're going with this question. It seems like us as humans, we forget that like 500,000 years ago we were primates running around the woods, hunting and gathering, and we have those natural instincts to protect ourselves. So I think it's more of a defense mechanism that we haven't shooken off over the years of evolving. That's made us like
Maybe.
defensive toward all these different things.
Yeah.
Yeah, why is there sadness in the world? Because the world sucks.
Next question. Next question. That's
the
great.
answer.
That's good.
Because it sucks.
And we're back with Meredith Asks. Our first question surely riled up the audience quite a bit, maybe too much for my taste. For our second question this evening, we have on par. What is the root of the Western obsession with the end of the world, doomsday, and the zombie apocalypse?
That's a pretty good question. Who wants to lead?
Well, everyone know that when the end of the world happens, it's going to happen. But everybody is so dead on of trying to figure out what day is it. I mean, I don't believe the end of the
I
world
don't think
will
it's even
happen.
going to be a day anymore, because when the end of the world happens, it will be because our sun has turned into a red giant
Yep.
and enveloped our current orbit.
That's how you know.
So days won't even work right at that point.
Well, if you look at it this way too, if the sun do go out one day, you think we just evolve from that and just evolve?
Well, we
what's
better
around?
evolve before that, because we're not going to be able to like last minute build a rocket or something.
It's like throwing a kid in a
The
swimming pool. They'll adapt to it sooner or later.
Well, either they do or they don't, but they usually do. But that's because they're used to it. What their first experiences were in water, in a
It'll take us
water.
years to adapt to our next surroundings.
Well, we need to start, man. We are definitely
Personally-
using resources on the planet much faster. I think that might be part of it. Why we're so obsessed with it. It's because of the.
Personally, I don't think we're gonna see the end of the world. I think
Well,
We're not.
it's gonna happen like millions of years later if it does.
Yeah. I mean, the world will end, but I think a lot of times when we talk about the end of the world, what we mean is the end of current human,
Human life.
the
Yeah.
way that it is right now.
Wow.
Not even maybe the end of human life, but the end of what we got right now,
Oh,
which is
yeah.
a treasure.
I mean, now
Well,
the world. Right now,
I think it's
see the
like
world.
every million years or so, the world changes. I mean, look, we had amoebas and like one-celled organisms, then we had like reptiles and
Yeah.
dinosaurs and stuff.
Oh.
Well,
and
they
then-
call those. Well, sometimes that is called the Great Filter. I mean, because we're living in the 6th Great Extinction right now. I mean, we are mass extinctions. You know, much of biodiversity is we're losing it like as we speak. But the was it Fermi or it was one of those guys that was talking about space travel,
Oh.
and he had this thing called the Fermi paradox where we see stars everywhere. We know that they're probably made, things are made up of similar stuff. There should be life. There should be a lot of life in the cosmos. So why don't we get visits? Why don't we see aliens? And so he hypothesizes a great filter, one of which could have been like you were saying, microbes from prokaryotes to eukaryotes, where cells become more complex. There were prokaryotes, these single-celled organisms, some of them like work together, but they're basically single-cell, like slime mold. But they lived for like 1 billion years without evolving, and then all of a sudden, finally, something happens, and eukaryotic life comes around, and then there's biodiversity.
Yeah.
So if that hadn't happened, and so then what he says is we could have a more technological one where it might be the speed of light.
Yeah.
It's just so far. So even if our civilization lasts 1 million years, that's the blink of an eye, and it would take about 100,000 years. It would take 1 million years to cross the solar system, going like 10% the speed of light.
What I find
the galaxy.
what I find funny is like people like when about the end of the world, like 2 years ago, December 21st, 2012, everybody was like,
Yes, the Maya calendar.
and then when it hit, everybody ran outside looking up at the sky.
Yes, but
Oh.
see that one, that's more of the old.
Yeah.
That's people trying to make a buck, and that's been happening. We were talking about it before the show.
Well, everyone knows.
I'm not saying that it doesn't signify
But-
something.
yeah.
Yeah, the Maya calendar is super. I'm not saying that it doesn't. I'm saying that the reason it was hyped and the reason it was considered that specific date was very important, rather than some tide shift.
I don't care. I'm suspect of anyone that gives a certain date. I'm like,
Yes.
no.
Melkorov, we were talking about that. In the Protestant Reformation, a guy was saying 1535, the world's ending. You know, they do it all the time. Remember the guy? Okay, it was in 2013, it was last year, and this guy was saying that the world was going to end on this specific date, and he had all of his parishioners like selling their houses, donating all their assets to him. Didn't end. He took out billboards saying it's going to end on this date. It didn't end. As evidenced by us being here. So he moved it back a few months, said, I read it wrong, it's like in July, not May. And he skipped town, dude. He skipped town, and people like killed them. Some people killed themselves because they were destitute.
There's tons of death cults.
That's horrible.
But-
Heaven's Gate.
but-
I'm telling you right now,
see,
we don't
but-
know. We don't know when it will start, but we know how it will start.
But it
Fire.
brings up a question like
Don't talk so close to the mic, sorry.
like Nostradamus, like he predicted like so many things happening. Like September 11th was one of them,
Wow.
and like, do you think he actually predicted the end of the world?
No, it's like retrospectively. He wrote like so vaguely that you can mix the words around and tie it to events that have already happened, but it's not going to tell you what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Once something
It
happens,
will-
you fit
something
saying,
will
oh,
happen.
that seems to
Okay.
bear out. But it
Yeah.
beforehand,
Let me ask
you
you a
wouldn't be able to
question
say,
about
okay, he's
Nostradamus.
saying that this particular thing will happen on this particular
Well, I mean,
date.
Guys.
like September.
Yes. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Director.
Let me ask you guys a question about Nostradamus. If Nostradamus really was predicting all these things, where were all the people who said Nostradamus predicted 9/11 on September 10th,
Yeah.
2001?
I mean, that's the.
Well, that's if you can really see the future, why didn't he write more specifically about
Exactly.
it?
Yeah.
You know?
But it's really it's like cold reading. It's like that crap
Cold
that John
reading.
Edwards used to do.
You think
Yeah.
it's also psychic when someone just come up front and say, "Oh, y'all, this is gonna happen the next tomorrow"? No.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, because if you get specific, you get found out.
Of
Yeah.
course. And plus, you be changing the whole life. I mean, you be breaking laws. It's the laws,
I
the laws of
mean-
life. You be.
I mean, I mean, I know Superman doesn't exist, but that'd be like Superman, dressing as Clark Kent, going out, saving someone or catching a bullet. He doesn't want to reveal too much. That's why he goes out as Superman.
I mean, if you're real psychic, you let whatever's about to happen happen. You don't stop it.
I mean, I would.
Why? 'Cause you're mean?
No.
Yeah,
you-
because that's kind of the whole.
It's like time travel. You don't just mess with that.
Yeah, but
I
but
love
you're
how
talking
we
about
started
having
off
a
about
power
the
that
end of the
most people
world.
Don't.
Yeah.
What were you saying, Director?
I love how we started at the end of the world, and we're getting into about psychics.
Yeah, well, we'll tie it back
right.
in.
All right, no, let's go back. Okay, end of
Okay,
the world.
but here's my thing about
Okay,
I want to talk about zombies for a second. I really am tired of the zombie thing because, zombies. The word zombie is like a voodoo thing for like a guy who puts like poison in another person's body and turns him into a slave. It's not about dead bodies coming out of the ground. I don't know.
Yeah.
It technically it does mention
it
in the
is-
Bible that the dead shall rise.
Yeah, that's said in Matthew. Yeah, it was said they did rise when Jesus died.
So see.
But what were you gonna say?
No, well, I mean, words change and concepts change. I mean, Dracula's changed since we had Twilight.
Yeah, all of a sudden they just glitter in the sunlight.
We're not gonna talk about that.
Okay, I think we're about time for our last question, guys.
Well, I just want to tie it in real quick. I was just going to say that maybe the overarching thing with the zombie theme especially and the end of the world in general is simply recognizing kind of the untenability of where we are right now, and if we're not careful, we're going to lose it.
No, of course.
Definitely the unsustainability.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's obvious.
Just the way that we're using resources. The earth is finite. We pretend like the economy certainly doesn't behave as though the earth is finite. It has to behave as though it's infinite. Okay, so anyway, thank you, and we'll go to the last question.
All right, here we go.
And we're back from our commercial break. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. For our third and final question of the evening, I will ask, should Israel become a Jewish state?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
that's
This
a rough
is,
Wow,
yeah, it's a rough.
Who's taking it? Who's running with it?
What are y'all
Okay.
Alex,
Okay,
man.
how many of you actually done research on this? Because I've been obsessed with this shit for a long time.
Yeah, man.
And
so
here's
you've
what I
been
found
reading the
out.
news. Oh, I guess real quick. Okay, Netanyahu, the prime minister, president, whatever the heck he is, the leader of Israel, recently came out and said that Israel should recognize itself as a Jewish state, and this is most likely in order to make Palestine recognize a quote unquote Jewish state in order to, for some kind of future two-state solution or whatever may come of that. Anyway,
Yeah.
it's a quagmire.
I mean, I think it's a mess. Okay, but here's the thing. It's like the Jews had it first when they escaped from Egypt.
And
And then the Palestinians took it. And then the Jews took it back.
so
and
does
then
that
the
mean when the
Palestinians.
Anasazi come back in 1,000 years, they get America back? I mean,
I mean, it's really stupid because it's just this one little chunk of land in the middle of the desert, and
yeah,
all
but
these
it's a
people are
chunk of
fighting
land
over it.
that all the monotheistic religions of the world trace their roots to.
Yeah, I
It's-
mean, like Jimmy Carter in the 70s made a deal with the Palestinians saying you could have 75% of this land. We just want to give like this little chunk of it to the Jews, and the Palestinians were like, no, we want all of it. And it's like, dude, how could you be that childish?
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's because they were prescient and they saw what was which way the water was flowing. I mean, if you look at a map of Palestine over the past 60 years, or Israel, whichever one well, Israel really, because Palestine's just a part of that, the West Bank and all that. Dude, Israel has subsumed that they've just taken it over little by little with military skirmishes, with ordinances, with new construction for houses. I mean, Israel has stolen that land, and it's not to say that they don't have a right to live there, but they don't have a right to kill the other inhabitants.
Yeah, it's like,
neither does Palestine. I'm not saying
Yeah.
Hezbollah. We know about Hamas. I mean, they're dangerous. Even the PLO. I mean, there are dangerous people in Palestine for sure. But they don't have the ordinance. They don't have the military might that Israel has, and Israel does not behave like a democracy.
Yeah, well, why does Israel have the military might they have?
Because of us.
Yeah.
Because of the U.S.
So this is an important question, and I think
It is very important because this is the entire world is affected by this, and this is the kind of place where World War III is the premonitions are happening, and it's because of our treatment with Israel and with
to Palestinians.
Yeah, 'cause
well,
the
and
Muslim-
with the Middle East in general, because this is the touchstone, this is the token.
Yeah.
Palestine is the place where all the Muslims in the world are like, look at the way you behave.
Exactly.
You don't treat us with the same dignity that you would treat the Europeans.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, after World War II, all these like Jews were like exiled, because of the Holocaust, and they had nowhere to go. So America comes in and like bullies the Palestinians to give them Israel,
Yeah,
just as a way.
47.
We
I mean,
felt bad
but
for the
they-
Jews,
But the biggest
But why
paradox
should
of
we?
that- the biggest paradox of that is that why did we have the Holocaust? Why did we do all that? Because the Nazis wanted a pure nation, right?
Yeah.
Right. And so, what are the Jews doing in Israel right now? They're trying to make it a Jewish state and kick out all the immigrants and kick out all the Palestinians because they want a pure Jewish state.
Yeah, it's really
That is
horrific when you
that
look
is
at
the
it.
paradox that is at like the
That's
heart of
the
all
thing.
this.
It's
totally
not even a
messed up.
paradox as much as it is just a grotesque irony. I mean, because it's kind of sick when you think about who got hanged at The Hague. All of these Nazis that were experimenting on Jews and Polish and Gypsies and all these people that they deemed less than. And all of these things now we have enshrined in law. We do them legally. We torture and kill around the world. And there is no Hague that we will be tried in because,
It's legal.
well, yeah, because we made it, because we prostitute words.
We have like this Teflon skin as Americans where we can go into all these random countries and like go in there and say, hey, you're not doing what we want you to do.
147 countries the U.S. is currently in.
Oh
Peace in the
man.
world.
There are only like 200.
And
Yeah,
why
that-
are we there?
Like, we're taking over.
Why are we
Yeah,
there?
we're living an imperialist existence, and we pretend that we aren't. But that's for
But
another
that's
show.
why
because
everybody
that
hates
could
us.
really get into the
Yeah.
corruption of the U.S. and how
Yeah.
it'll affect
But like that's
the public has on public policy. Go ahead.
that's the biggest problem I have is like everybody hates us as Americans because they see what our military is doing in all these countries and they think that we're all like that when we're not.
I wouldn't say that they all hate us, and I wouldn't say they all think that we are like that. But
They're
we
fierce.
are very naive to think that so much of the world hates us for, just because we're so
Nothing.
great. Like, yeah, I think it's really kind of a popular trope that the U.S. is disliked in the world. I don't know, the same way that some valley girl thinks that people don't like her because she dresses too nice.
She's too
No, we're disliked because of our actions.
Yeah. But it's like why do we do these things?
Well, we do them to protect oil and to protect the status
Protect
quo.
oil, or-
For
But like
the
I
most
said, we
part,
felt
protect
bad for the
copyright
Jews
law,
after the
protect
Holocaust.
banks.
We felt bad for the Jews after the Holocaust, so we're like, here you go, guys. We're sorry all this stuff happened. Here, go take this land. And then the Muslims are like, hey, what the hell? And now all these Muslim extremists are like, we hate Americans because they did this to us.
Yeah. Well, there's a group in Israel and in Palestine and in the area of Gaza and the West Bank and all that. And it's these parents and family members of lost loved ones on both sides who have come together and who are starting dialogues just from the ground up, grassroots style. And I don't remember what the name of it is. It's something like the lost ones, or but these are the people that are trying to come together and it's kind of like in some African nations, like in Senegal, they have this thing where whenever someone commits a crime, they let the family decide if they're going to punish them or not once guilt is decided. And the thing is, a lot of times families don't, because they have some phrase where they say that if you kill the person who killed your loved one, you will have vengeance or whatever, but you will be in mourning for the rest of your life. But if you spare them, your loved one's still gone, but you don't have to mourn anymore. You can something about sparing life.
I'm okay with
That's a
that.
beautiful thing.
I would do the same thing too. If that would happen to me, I would let them go.
Yeah, man, it's powerful.
Yeah, but see, with that, people, they're not gonna like this guy. I read on the internet, this guy, he was like 18 years old, and he was caught. He walks in his 11-year-old son's room, and the 18-year-old's having sex with the 11-year-old, and the guy just snapped. I mean, he nearly beat him to death.
Yeah.
And then he was sitting there and he called the cops and said, I just found this guy having sex with my son. I beat the shit out of him. He's laying all bloodied on the floor. I almost killed him. Come get him for me. Mm-hmm. And the cops came and got him.
And was he prosecuted?
Yeah.
Was he convicted though? See, that's the thing. I mean, we've got a weird, perverse justice system. It's not a justice system in the U.S. It's it's basically keep rich people out of jail. But it's really, if he in fact had been a rich person, he wouldn't have gone to jail.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of thing. They may have prosecuted him, but but that's the thing where we really just have this sick relationship with bad deeds, as though doing a bad deed, like we haven't all done bad things, and especially things that we regret, maybe destructive things or hurtful things. But
yeah,
but
I was about to say that. Jacob, you're on the right track. I was thinking the same thing. Was like, because like you were saying before about in other cultures, they let them go and they forgive them.
Not always, but they're given the prerogative.
Yeah, but in our culture, it's like we have to be.
See, that's the thing. That's where the state has overstepped any kind of moral ground, because
Americans all think they're Charles Bronson, and it's like we have to go out there like Death Wish and just like
in a lot of ways. Well, look, I think we've overstepped our time. Yeah, but
we're about 2 minutes over. But
all right, well, not till we get off the air. Oh, never mind. All right, that sounded like a root beer to me.
Wow.
Okay, look, thanks for watching. This has been Ground Table. Thanks, Reggie in the booth, and thanks y'all for being on. This was
all right. Thanks, guys.
Okay.
Peace out.
Peace out.